The Institute of Internal Auditors presents All Things Internal Audit. In this episode, Dirk Debruyne and Marthin Grobler discuss the IIA's recently released Quality Assessment Manual, 2024 edition, with David Petrisky. They share their personal experiences with quality assessments and the development of the updated manual, including how it aligns with the new Global Internal Audit Standards.
I'm talking today with Marthin Grobler and Dirk Debruyne about the Quality Assessment Manual, which the IIA recently published as global guidance. And I want to start off just by asking Marthin and Dirk a little bit about their experiences with quality assessments, because this is a rather important project for the IIA, and their involvement on the task force was particularly or intentionally, they were intentionally selected to be on the task force because of their experiences. And Marthin in particular is a member of the International Internal Audit Standards Board. So Marthin can tell us a little bit about his experience and his role on the project as a member of the IISB.
Thank you, David. Yes, I've been a member of the IISB now for about 4 years. It's going on 4 years now. And it's been a fantastic journey that I've been part of the development of the new international standards for internal auditors. And my past experiences in terms of EQA, I've been performing internal quality assessments now for the past 15 years. I'm currently busy with 2 at one stage, and I've done about 8 during the course of this year already. So the things just keep rolling up and rolling on, and everybody tries to get the EQAs done now just before the new standards becomes effective. But basically, that's my background, and been enjoying every moment of the EQA processes, and love giving back to the internal audit functions in terms of advice as to how they need to improve and need to get up to the leading practice standards and requirements that we are setting out there. So kind of elevating that profession for everyone out there. Thanks, David.
Sure. And Dirk, can you tell us a little bit about your background with quality assessments?
Yeah, sure, David. Thanks for hosting me. So, yeah, a little bit like Marthin, I've also quite a lot of experience, I would say over 30 years in, external and internal auditing. And I had, I would say, the luxury and privilege last year to help, with the publication of the international standards, as I would say, consultant to the standards board. And from an experience from, external quality assessment, I kind of started to do some recently. Part of the objective was, like Marthin, sharing my experience over 20 years in internal auditing. And then, just making sure that, when we do a quality assessment, we do a good quality review, but also help contribute to the development of those internal audit functions.
And Marthin, as the IIASB's representative on the task force to develop the new quality assessment manual, what sort of responsibilities did you carry into that project on behalf of that board?
The constant questions from the IIA Standards Board in terms of what the progress is like and what we are focusing on. And I think the biggest responsibility is trying to align the requirements of the quality assessment manual, but also the ideas and the direction of that manual to the discussions that was held around the board tables on a continuous basis in terms of the development of those standards. Now those standards came about. Getting into the background of the essence of what the Standards Board and the Institute of Internal Auditors globally tried to achieve with these standards, and how that resonates within the quality assessment manual. So that feedback was a constant question that came about from the Standards Board participants.
And
thanks, David.
Yeah, Dirk, was there a particular area of the new quality assessment manual that you focused on or that you emphasized in your participation on the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had I would say the luxury to kind of focus on domain 2, the ethics part, because partly it's part of my personality. I would say, when you do a role as chief audit executive, you have to do your assignment for the internal audit, but you have an important role to play in the ethical part, development of the company. So writing that part was interesting. And I think I would a little bit share, like with Marthin, I think we had an interesting group working, on the new quality assessment, partly people from the practice, experienced, very experienced, I would say. And then also, well, I would say, like with Earton, we had people from the academic or with an academic background. So I think the combination of all that made that, well, yeah, we kind of revamped, in my opinion, in fact, the quality assessment manual. I think people will see if you would compare it, I would say, to the Blue Book, it's going to be kind of a revolutionary change, in my opinion.
Thanks for that comment, because that actually anticipates my next question. I was going to ask whether either one of you had experience in your prior quality assessments using the prior version of the quality assessment manual, which is also known as the Blue Book.
I'll take that one, Dirk, if you don't mind.
Feel free.
The Blue Book, it used to be a light Blue Book previously, and I think it was even a lighter Blue Book, the first versions that came out. So I've been using the initial first version of the quality assessment manual way back when. And just a little bit of background on that, my mother was actually one of the writers of the initial quality assessment manual. So she's credited with that one, and now I take that whole essence forward into the new quality assessment. I've been working with that for a long, long time. And yeah, so it's kind of a family business and a family-oriented thing, and I hope I live up to the expectations that she set as well in terms of this involvement of my me with the development of this new manual.
Outstanding. Dirk, you know, add to that?
Yeah, well, what I would definitely like to add is, in fact, and again, it's a comment that we often get, in our profession, and it's definitely not a negative comment to the Blue Book, but where, in the past, the Blue Book might be more considered a little bit like a tick the box. I think here, not only did we revamp, I would say, the content of the manual, but also kind of, the template documentation that you can use as a guidance to come to your conclusion. And I think for me, one of the good things, maybe also the challenges is, well, you're going to have to use your professional judgment in order to come to a conclusion. And I think that is what's going to, well, make it on one hand more challenging, but on the other hand also more interesting, from a users and assessors point of view.
Yeah. So how do you think the new manual is aligned with the standards, and does that make the job of the assessment easier, or does it make it harder?
I'll start first. I think, well, for me, the manual is totally aligned with the new standards. So, from that perspective, I think it makes it easy. I think, well, the beauty and the challenge is that well, yeah, the standards are principle based rather than rule based, and in order to come to, or yeah, make it or call it a fair assessment or a right conclusion, it's going to use, you're going to have to use your professional judgment and looking on, the facts and what the topics you're looking at, you're assessing.
Yes, David, if I may continue on to that aspect, there's a perfect alignment, I think, between the new standards and the quality assessment manual. I mean, even the domains that you'll find within the standards are chapters within the new manual. So there's that direct correlation between the two documents, two practices. Although there's no copy and paste from the standards, the manual is more of a in-depth guide to internal audit functions as well as to assessors as to how to go about not only conforming the standards and the rules of those standards, but actually to achieve those principles that has been set out in the standard.
Can it be used, or can this methodology in the manual be used for internal assessments as well as external?
Yeah, I see no reason why there would be a difference. And in fact, I would also like to build on what Martin said. Well, not only there's perfect alignment, but without trying to, write an audit manual or an audit handbook, I think what we have tried, as authors for the new quality manual is to kind of give explanation, pay the attention on the areas where you as an assessor or, as a user of the manual, in order to do your self-evaluation, putting the attention to the points that you need to look at that are critical to get conformance with the standards. So I think it's going to be, without wanting to do a good PR talk here, yeah, I think it's a good usage or a good tool for all the auditors.
Martin, were there parts of the quality assessment manual that you particularly focused on or had an emphasis in the drafting?
Yeah, well, actually, I assisted Dirk a little bit with domain 2 as well, but I had more of a overall view of all of the domains. The domain 2 was probably the most challenging one, I think. Oh, I want to retract that. Let's say for us during the discussions, the most challenging part of that domain 2 was the fact that there's a lot of aspects of domain 2 that you won't find documentary evidence of certain of those attributes that's needed for internal auditors and how they act and how they perform certain aspects of their job. And a lot of that information would be subjective in nature, and you obtain that information through discussions with stakeholders. And that's where a lot of professional judgment from an from an external quality assessment perspective will play a role, and how you will interpret that information that you receive through those discussions. That's what makes the assessment of domain 2 a little bit more tricky than some of the other domains where you might have more documentary evidence.
Were there other? What were some of the challenges in some of the other domains? Like, in terms of drafting, a methodology for assessing conformance, or other significant issues in the other domain.
From my perspective, David, the other significant challenging domain was probably domain 3. Luckily, we had a lot of experts that worked on that domain and hashed out all of the issues that there were. But I think there was a specific challenge in how to assess and to, at the end of the day, rate internal audit functions when a lot of the requirements or essential conditions, as they are referred to in the new standards, are things that parties outside of the internal audit function actually needs to attend to. And it's not necessarily things that the internal audit function or the CAE as an individual has a lot of control over. They need to give guidance and educate and create awareness for some of those sections within domain 3, and to write guidance in terms of that, I think, was quite a challenge for the writers of the QA manual as well.
And Dirk, is that? Go ahead. You're going to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say I definitely agree with Martin. I remember on the mandate, the conversations we had on the mandate, and how that did all pieces together. I remember we had quite some intense but good and constructive conversations. So definitely agree with Martin.
I was going to add, in your practice, is that a topic that comes up in the assessments of the quality of internal audit functions, right? How their governance structure impacts the quality of the function.
I'll grab this one for now. Dirk, just you can have the next one initially. I'll grab this one for now. David, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of discussions during EQAs that is happening specifically around the preparing for domain 3's conformance for the internal audit functions. And it actually differs from organization to organization. Some organizations are more than comfortable with all of those requirements within domain 3 that relates to the board and to senior management. But some organizations have got concerns, and those concerns are very much related more to the knowledge and the awareness and the expectations from other parties towards internal audit than it is as to how they will conform. There's a lot of education that needs to happen from an internal audit side. And I don't think internal auditors or CAEs generally are geared towards educating. They're more about analyzing and evaluating and then giving feedback in terms of that, not really on the education part, creating that awareness. So it's a kind of a change, a mindset change that's needed from certain parties within the internal audit function as well, in order to approach it in such a way that they create that, or they elevate that expectation of internal auditing.
Mm-hmm. And do you see this methodology in the quality assessment manual creating new areas of emphasis for the assessment, or in alignment with the new standards? But do you see that going forward, quality assessments will be looking for different things than they were before, or expecting different things out of the internal audit functions than they might have compared to the old standard?
Yeah. What I would like to add, and I think we haven't talked maybe about what we would call the elephant in the room, the maturity model. I think we kind of added to some of the documents, the assessment of the maturity. we know it's still an area kind of, well, in development or to be developed further. But for me, I think that's kind of well, I'm not going to say a new concept, but a concept that's kind of introduced with the new manual. And I think, doing an assessment of that will kind of definitely help, I would say, audit functions to develop and to assess where they are, and to some degree to see, well, where do we want to be, in the near future.
Can you talk a little bit about, Martin or Dirk, about how the quality assessment manual incorporates a maturity assessment into the quality assessment?
In the current, the new 2024 quality assessment manual, there's a kind of an introduction to maturity assessments, but maturity assessments has got a lot of nuances in different organizations and different levels of maturity that there might be with the requirement for maturity for internal audit functions. So the quality assessment manual currently is light on guidance, detailed guidance, let's put it that way, detailed guidance as to how to go step by step in terms of a maturity assessment and what in everything around a maturity assessment would entail. But it does provide a CAE and an internal audit function with some direction as to what needs to happen for a maturity assessment of that internal audit function. I think there's a lot of additional information that can be developed around maturity assessments, as well as in terms of direction and maybe templates and stuff for maturity assessments that's not included in this QA manual. But that's something that I believe that will be developed as time goes by. Well, hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, and so you mentioned some of the templates that are accompanying the new quality assessment manual, and we've communicated publicly that they're there to enable planning, field work, and reporting. Can you talk a little bit about how the practitioner would use those templates with the manual to conduct a quality assessment?
But what I would say is, I think, well, as a starter, or well, some might be experienced, some might be less experienced, but I think maybe a prerequisite is, well, have a good, thorough understanding of the standards, because to some degree, the templates are really built upon not only the structure but also the content of the new standards. And I think if you master very well the standards, using the templates should be fairly easy, in my opinion. So I think that's what we've tried to do. Rewrite not only the manual, but there's kind of a one-to-one between new standards, new manual.
Yeah, please, David, can I just add to that? Yes, so the templates and the tools are fantastic, and it's like Dirk mentioned, 100% aligned to the new standards, but so is the content. And the content actually gives any assessor or even the internal audit function, CAE, some guidance as to how to complete those templates and what is necessary to really give an indication as to the level of achievement of certain standards, and eventually it builds up into the overall achievement of the principles that's underpinned by those standards themselves. So that's just what I wanted to add in terms of that. Thanks, David.
Yeah, and I would maybe, as a last point, indeed, I think that the 4-point scale of rating, well, that should definitely help the assessor, whether it's for a self-assessment or not. It's going to definitely help the assessor to make his own conclusion and then see where he is at the end of the day.
So you bring up the 4-point conclusion scale, which is new, right? The previous version of the quality assessment manual had 3 levels of conclusions, right? It was general conformance, partial conformance, and does not conform, or something to that effect. But the new manual has 4 levels. Can you talk a little bit about why why 4 levels and what does that offer?
I'll grab this one for now, Dirk, and then you can add on if you want to. All right. So the main reason I think we went for the 4-level scale instead of the 3-level scale is to get something more definitive as an outcome for internal audit functions. A lot of internal audit functions did really, really well in terms of conformance in relation to the old rating scales, and they will still just get a generally conformed rating. And some internal audit functions said, but I am fully conforming to everything, so please develop something that actually speaks to us as those leading practice internal audit functions as well. So I think that's one of the reasons that resulted in that 4-point scale coming out. And the 4-point scale is now not any not focusing anymore on conformance, but it's focusing on the achievements. So the 4-point scale is now either you do not achieve, and that talks about the achievement of the standards and the principles, and then you've got a partial achievement, a general achievement, and then you have at the top of this rating scale a full achievement, where the general achievement and full achievement would both be seen as a passing grade, if you put it that way, for internal audit functions. Internal audit functions should be striving towards that full achievement rating at the end of the day.
Another point of emphasis in the new standards was that quality and conformance with the standards includes an element of the performance of the function. Can you talk about how that or the new quality assessment manual incorporates that assessment of performance or the measurement of performance into the assessment of the function's quality?
This actually links onto the earlier question that you asked, whether the new manual makes it more difficult for quality assessors or does it make life easier for quality assessors. Now, that's a kind of a depends question, but it specifically relates to this performance outcomes or quality outcomes, where the new standards, like you mentioned, talks about quality, which is performance plus conformance. It's not only conformance anymore. So external assessors will have to look at it, at the approaches and the outcomes of internal audit functions, not only from a conformance perspective, but also from a performance perspective, which is that achievement that relates to the achievement of those principles and the standards. Like I said, it could make life a little bit more difficult for a quality assessor to assess whether an internal audit function is not only conforming, but also performing in terms of certain aspects that links to those principles. The quality assessment manual itself gives some insights as to how to go about evaluating that performance and conformance aspects that both leads to the quality outcomes. So that's why I believe that the quality assessment manual is not just a manual for quality assessments, but it's also a guidance document for internal audit functions to enhance and elevate their internal auditors.
Okay, and so one of the concepts in the standards is that the external quality assessment can be satisfied with a self-assessment with internal or with self-assessment with independent validation. Does the quality assessment manual provide some guidance for that kind of assessment? And does it talk about what the relative benefits or a full external quality assessment are versus the SAI?
Yeah, I think as I said, and the quality manual, without trying to be I would say an audit handbook, I think is a good synopsis, at least for what you can do as an audit function, and so I think we describe very well the benefits of either going for a full assessment with external validation or self-assessment. So I think upon reading of the manual, you should be able to make the assessment for the best goal for your organization, in my opinion.
Yes, David, can I add to that as well, just briefly, that it identifies the differences between the two and the pros and the cons of both approaches to an assessment. And in addition to that, it also talks about peer reviews and what would constitute a peer review assessment as well. And I wanted to add that it not only talks about the external quality assessments, which is the self-assessment with independent validation or the full external quality assessment, but it also gives guidance on the internal quality assessments and what needs to happen in terms of your internal quality assessments that would ultimately lead up to your external quality assessments and the outcomes of those.
Right, and
thanks, David.
Yeah, sure. In your professional practice, what are you hearing from chief audit executives or boards that engage you for external quality assessments? What are you hearing from them as to what they want out of the quality assessment? Right? What are they primarily looking for out of these ways?
I would say, from my perspective, I think they definitely want to know where they are, and I think with the new standards, they're now out for about a year. I think they definitely want to see what are the gaps we need to fill in order to be in line with the new standards. So I think those are, in my opinion, the two most predominant questions.
Martin, is that what you're hearing also?
Well, yes. In addition to those comments, I also when I talk to boards or audit committees regarding quality assessments and to CAEs, most of the time they don't just want a pure assessment on conformance to the standards. They're actually looking for additional things like leading practices and recommendations for improvements. And I was busy with some training today on new standards, where the one lady actually asked, but what is that full conformance mean? Does that mean that you're at the top of your game and nothing can be improved? And my response to that was, there's always room for improvement. It doesn't matter where you are, there's always room for improvement. So I would expect, even when we do a normal external quality assessment and there's a full achievement of everything, that the external quality assessor is at such a stage that they can still make recommendations that would lead to improvements of the internal audit function, whether it be for effectiveness or efficiency purposes. And I think that's what boards, audit committees, and chief audit executives are looking for, is those value-added opportunities, even from an external quality assessment.
And do both of you think that the quality assessment manual is a useful and is fit for purpose for those for what the boards and the chief audit executives are looking for? Well, let me put it another way. Do you think that additional tools or resources would be helpful to provide the complete picture of quality? And Martin talked earlier about additional maturity assessment guidance.
I would actually, David, I would actually say that the QM manual it's not the be all and the end all of quality in an internal audit function, but it's a definite fantastic starting point. It doesn't just give you the basics, it goes a little bit above and beyond those basics. Obviously, it doesn't give you the details of maturity and how to determine the different levels of maturity, and doesn't give you some insights into those maturities, but it gives you enough information where you can satisfy yourself as an internal audit function, if you use that manual, that we are definitely either on the right path or where we need to be. Yeah, I'll end it there. Thanks, David.
Yeah, if you were talking to a new chief audit executive, maybe starting up, a new internal audit function, hasn't gone through an external assessment before, can they use this manual as a guide to establishing processes and a methodology for their internal quality assessments that will prepare them for, a full external assessment?
I would say, in my opinion, yes. That's the short answer. And again, I think a little bit to add on what Dave or what Martin said just a minute ago. I think that the manual is kind of a guideline, and it's going to give you the basics. But I think the chief or the executive will kind of have to think out the box and see, okay, where are we? What's our maturity? And then see, okay, how can we now benefit from a good running audit function? So I think, even newcomers or people that are going to do an assessment for the first time, I think the new audit manual is definitely going to be a good guideline.
So, looking forward a couple of years, what do you think some of the most impactful innovations would be? In the area of quality assessment, incorporating new technology, incorporating a broader framework of maturity. Where do you think quality assessments will be going in the future?
I'll take that one for now. Embracing technology is one of the key topics that is being discussed across this profession. You'll see it in the Vision 2035 reports as well, that embracing of technology. And the more you go around attending conferences and listening to people speaking, AI is obviously at the tip of the tongue of everyone, and those emerging technologies and the use of them in external quality assessments cannot be denied. Somewhere along the line, those technologies would have to start playing a role in the quality assessment manual. So I don't think this quality assessment manual is going to be the same manual for the next 10 years. I think it's going to be evolving as we move along. In terms of maturity assessments, I'm sure that's one aspect that's also going to be evolved within the QM manual, and it's going to grow and develop as time goes by. But in addition to that, there's not only the quality assessment manual. I mean, the Institute is developing so many tools and guidance documents for internal audit functions that need to be used supplementary to the QM manual, if I can put it that way, to develop your internal audit function. Or not supplementary maybe, but even prior to EQAs, in order to make sure that your internal audit function is on the right way to not only conform, but to achieve the purpose at the end of the day of internal auditing. And that's obviously to help an organization create, protect, and sustain value.
Yeah, you're kind of stealing my thunder, David, because I was going to say the tools, it's definitely, an element in the execution of the assessments / self-assessment. But I think it's also a good moment to think about the purpose of your audit function. Why do we have one? What do we want to achieve? How can we utilize it best? Purpose, it's also in the whole sustainability discussion. It's also kind of a key word or a key concept or key point of the discussion. So I think doing an assessment might help you kind of focus again or ask yourself the question, what's the purpose of our audit function? Are we on the right track, or are we getting the benefit out of it?
Along those lines, let me ask, what would be your best, response to? So, why should I get an external quality assessment? Right? If I feel like I've got a mature internal audit function and we have good practices and we're able to verify our conformance against the standards, why isn't that enough?
I think it's like with every time you go for outside advice. I mean, it's an opportunity to have another view at things, have a fresh look at a situation, and look at your environment with a set of fresh eyes. So I think there's definitely an added value element to it.
Absolutely, I would emphasize that added value, because a lot of the times internal audit functions, they tend, even if they are good and they're running well and they're performing everything according to plan, there is a point in time where they start wearing blinkers and only focus on the things within their organization, not seeing the bigger picture of what's happening in the industry or the profession, and start forgetting, or they tend to start forgetting, that there's a bigger world out there. So a lot of the times, that if I can give advice to internal audit functions, go and get those external quality assessments, because it brings a different point of view into your internal audit function.
All right. And Dirk, do you have any final thoughts or suggestions that you would want to put out there for internal auditors, as it relates to quality assessments or the new QAM?
Well, again, I think the good thing is, we revamped the new quality manual. I think we gave good guidance on what to look for, how to assess, and we didn't have tick the box checklist, I would say. So for me, it's a win-win-win. So I can only recommend everybody to have a good look at it, use it wisely, and make progress.
Do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom for the internal audit community?
From my side, the new QA manual is not just a checklist approach like Dirk mentioned. It's a document or a manual that can be used by internal audit functions to help them develop and grow. And it's not the be all and end all of what an internal audit function is about, but it does give CAEs some insight as to what the things are that external quality assessors are going to focus on, and how they're going to approach the different aspect of your EQA. So just in terms of that, it might change the minds of some CAEs as to how they approach certain aspects of their processes.
All right. Now that we're in the appendix portion of the recording, let me ask about topical requirements.
I don't hear you, David. Sorry.
Yeah. So I didn't want to ask about the topical requirements directly, or in the full stream. But do either of you want to take a stab at talking about how the quality assessment manual incorporates the topical requirements into the assessment approach?
I will be glad to take a stab at that one, David, because the topical requirements is actually an add-on to Domain 5. So it's not that there's going to be any difference in how you approach an audit or plan for an audit or execute or communicate through the engagement itself. The topical requirements is just additional, I nearly said guidelines, but it's not guidelines. It's not a scope either. It's not a scoping document either. But it gives the internal audit functions some insights as to what they must be focusing on when they look at those topics, when and if they are auditing those topics. Now, from an external quality assessment perspective, or an internal quality assessment perspective, the only time that those topical requirements are going to be reviewed is if they were performed, if they were part of your plans initially. Secondly, it forms part of the same selection process as any other audit would form part of. So if you've performed 100 reviews during the course of the past year and the sample selection is 10, there's going to be a random selection. If the topical requirements are one of those selections, then that standard that was created for that topic will be used by the EQA assessor to evaluate that process and how you approach that process for that topical requirement. In addition to that, I've spoken to a number of people already about topical requirements during training sessions and EQAs. And I must say there isn't a lot of pushback at this stage, not in the South African context, in terms of topical requirements. It's actually being embraced. And a lot of the feedback is we're looking forward to those requirements so that we at least know what the minimum things are that we need to focus on when we approach those topics.
One last question about the assessment manual's methodology for concluding on domain 1 and it's fulfilling the purpose of internal audit.
I would say, well, the objective is that you have your conclusions on all the domains, but at the end, you're going to have to make a final conclusion on domain 1. Sorry, the purpose of your audit function, and yeah. So I think where the standard starts with domain 1, I think from a quality assessment, you're going to have to do your work and then come to a conclusion. Well, after you've done your assessment, well, do we fulfill with domain 1 and the purpose of your audit function?
And Martin, do you have an opinion on why the conclusion model was structured that way?
Again, I think we had a lot of discussions on this one, but it is the ultimate outcome of what an internal audit function needs to achieve. That's our ultimate goal. And even if you are achieving, say, 70% of the principles within the standards, and 70% of the principles and the standards, which would probably put you somewhere, depending on which ones, at a generally achieved rating, there can still be a general achievement of the purpose of internal auditing, where you help strengthen an organization's ability to create, protect, and sustain value. So although it's not completely separate, it is informed by everything else that we do. It's got such an impact on the internal audit profession that it needs to be emphasized. But it's being emphasized by putting it separately. Let's put it that way. That's my point of view on that one.
Well, thank you, Martin, and thank you, Dirk, for taking the time to talk to us about the quality assessment manual, and thank you both for your efforts in developing the new manual. I know I appreciate it, and the IIA thanks both of you.
Yeah, hey, David.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yep, happy to share the experience.
In bonus content, the IIA's Deborah Poulalion joins Robert Perez to discuss the 2024 North American Pulse of Internal Audit Report.
Deborah, thanks so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So again, the goal for both the Pulse and Risk and Focus surveys and reports is to share that useful data and benchmarking for internal auditors and CAEs. So what's your approach when you're crafting the questions for those surveys that help accomplish that goal? So let's start with the Pulse.
Well, definitely for the Pulse, that has a long legacy, and the real focus is for an internal audit leader, a CAE or a director level, to have information they can use to make their audit plans. So we're always thinking about what the practitioner needs, the metrics that they're already using. We modify it and change it every year to make it better and to serve our practitioners.
Excellent. So as I mentioned before, it's in its 16th year. So what kind of benefits do we gain from having sort of more than a decade's worth of data, well over a decade's worth of data, for some of the points that we come up with?
Well, I think when it really became very relevant was in the pandemic, because we had asked for years two very basic questions. We said, did your budget increase, decrease, or stay the same? Did your staffing increase, decrease, or stay the same? So when the pandemic hit and everyone's budgets went down and they stopped increasing their staff, we could look back at the 2008 world economic crisis and compare that to the pandemic and have a sense of what might happen in the future, which really did play out about the same way. It was really interesting.
And some of the charts, I think we refer to them in-house as sort of the fish charts. It really shows how parallel those two events were in terms of both the drop and the rebound, correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct. That is correct.
So with Risk and Focus, we made a decision to take what was a regional product of the European Confederation of Institutes of Internal Auditors, ECIA, and turn it into a global product. First, tell me how you approached such a massive research project.
First, you build relationships with the leaders in those regions. So we had a point of contact within each region that helped us also reach out to the institutes of that region. So we had really broad participation, and we were making sure that we were telling the story from that region's point of view, not from our point of view.
We were also able to package the data that came from the Risk and Focus survey in a couple of novel ways. Tell me a little bit about hot topics and board briefings.
So it's for two different audiences. So the hot topics are hot topics for internal auditors, and it actually focuses beyond the survey to talk about leading practices to respond to the risks and the audit plan challenges that were raised through the survey. So that's the hot topics. The board briefing is a summarized version that focuses on how boards can support internal audit in addressing these risks.
And the beauty of both of those products is that you created those for the specific regions around the world, correct?
Yes, every report is completely different. It has different subject matter experts and different topics because each region is different.
To that point, was there anything any unique challenges or maybe insights that came out of those individual reports?
Well, I think it was really interesting, the similarities that we did not expect, and then the differences that showed that each region is unique. So that's what surprised me very much. In fact, I'm going to reference one of my favorite graphs that reminds me that really the top 3 or 4 risks are the same worldwide, but each region had its unique differences. For example, in Europe and in Latin America, geopolitical uncertainty was a prime concern. We're going to see that change and expand this year because things have changed even in the course of 12 months.
Additional thoughts you want to share?
I think, the IIA really is the only organization that has the ability to reach internal auditors around the world. And it's not just in the big companies. It's not just in the big countries. We actually touch and interact with internal auditors everywhere. I'm always amazed at the number of countries that participate in our global surveys. It's over 100 every time, easily. And maybe 8 or 10 people from that location, but it all adds up to a very global picture of the profession.
And to your earlier point, there's a lot of more similarities among those challenges and those risks and risks management than we might expect.
Yes, that's very true.
So any other thoughts you'd like to share at this point, Deborah?
Well, if you have not already downloaded some of our reports, many of which are available to the public, I really encourage people to do that. Our Pulse of Internal Audit report is available to the public. All the Risk and Focus reports are available to the public from every region. So if you're a multinational organization and you work with Asia Pacific or Latin America or North America, you can download the reports that are relevant to that region.
Thank you again so much, Deborah, for joining us today. It's always great to chat with you.
Thank you very much, Robert.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and rate us. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can also catch other episodes on YouTube or at the IIA.org. That's THEIIA.org.